afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another technical video from Default Root UK. I'm Rich, CCIE 21490, and today we're going to really quickly blast through OSPFv3, which is IPv6 version of OSPF. We're going to cover off the same topology that we used last time on part 1 of this technology series about virtual links, OSPF virtual links, and we're going to cover the same topology but with IPv6. So without further ado, let's get started. Here we go. Let's go on to router 1. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, and we're going to do IPv6 routing, is enable IPv6 unicast routing. Now, you don't need to enable IPv6 unicast routing if you're not going to be running an IPv6 routing protocol. Alright? If you want to enable an IPv6 address on an interface, you go right ahead and you can do that without enabling IPv6 unicast routing. Okay, you do not need to do that. But we're gonna be doing some routing with OSPFv3, right? So we need to enable this. So IPv6 unicast routing and global configuration command. Put that into all the routers. So let's just do that. IPv6. In fact, let me just copy and paste this because it's taking too long. Okay, and now that's in there. We're gonna have to build the IPv6 network addresses. Now I've got on my there's already an article on this, by the way, on the Default Root UK website. If you go into technical articles and look for enabling OSPFv3 virtual links for fun, you'll be able to go through this offline if you download that page, or you can read it HTML. But here's the IP address format we're going to have. So for the loopback interfaces, we're going to go with 2000, which is the standard for IPv6 network that everyone would use for global for general use. 1.1 is going to be just what we'll use for all of our networks, and then the loopback will be 1111 for route 1, 2222 for route 2, 3333 route 3, 444 for route 4, and then the /128 host IP will be 12304 for route 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then the links in between will be 2000:1:1:12 for the one between route 1 and route 2. 23 between route 2 and route 3, 34 between route 3 and route 4. Yeah, so it kind of follows a pattern. So let's go ahead and configure the IP addressing. So we're on route 1 right now, so the only ones I need to do in here are the loopback interface. So IPv6 address, and then we'll give it the address 2000:1:1:1:1/64. Okay. So that's the first 64 bits there. That's the network part of the thing, and then there's the host IP, just .1 there. Let's go into fast Ethernet 00, IPv6 address, and fast Ethernet 00, IPv6 address 2000:1:1:34:4/64. Right, so that should be everything. Let's just ping 2000:1:1:34:3. Make sure we ping :3. There we go. Right, so that's all the IPv6 running now. So we've got IPv6 set up on this interface, and this interface, this, and all the loopbacks have got IPv6 addresses. Right, so we're all sweet, and we've pinged across the point-to-point links, and we know all that works. Right, so we're going to configure the OSPF now. So the thing about OSPF, normally you do route or OSPF, and then, sorry, let's just get that right and stop fat fingering everything, slow down a little bit. You do route or OSPF and then the process ID, right? That's the normal way to do it, process ID. Okay. Now the great thing for iOS users for IPv6 is most things are either you change the keyword. If the keyword originally was IP, it's now IPv6. So things like show IP interface brief is now show IPv6 interface brief. Show IP OSPF neighbors is now show IPv6 OSPF neighbors, and things like that. So in here we've got router OSPF1. Guess what? IPv6 router OSPF1 enables the OSPF process 1. All right. So we're going to give ourselves the router ID. Now don't get freaked out when we put in the. We're going to put a 1.1.1.1 address in here, and you're going to think that's an IPv4 address. What am I doing? I thought we were doing IPv6. I thought this was OSPFv3. You're absolutely right, it is. But remember, a router ID is just a 32-bit number. Right? It's just a 32-bit number. So the IP representation there of 1.1.1.1 is actually 7 zeros and a 1, 7 zeros and a 1, 7 zeros and a 1, 7 zeros and a 1 in binary. It doesn't, it's 32 bits. It doesn't care. It's just a representation. We use the dotted decimal representation to make that nice and easy for us. So we configure the router ID just like we would do normally for OSPF version 2, because when the OSPF process comes up, it wants to have its router ID set. We don't want to be turning OSPF on and having it choose its own router ID randomly. Okay, so we do that sort of thing just to make our lives a little bit easier, don't we? So let's put this in all the in all these routers here. So IPv6 router OSPF1, and we do router ID 2222. Okay, from router ID 4444. Okay, great. So we've got that all configured, and all the loopback interfaces are in the for the router ID. Brilliant. So we're going to configure OSPF now. So normally what you would do in OSPF for IPv4 is you'd go to turn it on for an interface. You'd go into router OSPF1, for example, and you'd do network, and let's say we were going to do it for the loopback interface and only the loopback interface. We'd have network 4.4.4.4, and then we'd use the all ones or 0000 wildcard mask to say just that IP, just that IP address I want to enable OSPF4, right? And then you give it an area and you put it in an area. That's what you do, yeah. Okay, so OSPFv3 is slightly different, and actually OSPFv2 for the IPv4 in some of the later versions of iOS do it in exactly the same way. You go onto the interface itself and you enable it in here. So IPv6 OSPF, and then you give it the process ID, which we already had, which is 1, and then you put it into the area. So for us, we're in router 1, we're putting the fast Ethernet 00 port, which is this one here, into OSPF area 0 for OSPFv3. All right, and we're putting the loopback interface into 0 as well. So let's just do that. So that's it. So IPv6 OSPF1, 1 being the process ID, just like normal, and then the area number. So nothing too special. So we're going to go into R2 and we'll configure fast Ethernet 00 into area 0. We should see the neighborship come up, and we'll do that. So let's go into fast Ethernet 00. We do IPv6 OSPF1 area 0. We should see a neighbor relationship appear if we've done our job. Where is this? Where is this? Show IPv6 OSPF neighbors. Alright, so next start. Okay, we're going to get there. There we go. Alright, so from loading to full. Great. So the adjacency is now up. Great. So on Route 2 now, so we need to do fast Ethernet 1, 0, and do the same thing for there. So IPv6, OSPF, process ID 1, area, and we're putting this one into area 1. And we're also doing loopback 0 into area 1. And we're doing nothing else. That's it. Great. So R2, we've got fast Ethernet 00 in our area 0, fast Ethernet 10 in area 1, and the loopback interface 0 in area 1 also. So onto R3, we've got the fast Ethernet 10 connected to area 1, and then R4, which is the last one to configure. So thank you for bearing with me. Fast Ethernet 00, we do IPv6, OSPF, process ID 1, area, where are we? 2, and we're going to put the loopback interface into area 0. Alright, so this is all configured now. So OSPF is running across the board. All of the links are there. We should have some adjacencies up now, which we do. Let's have a look at the routing table on R1 now. So we again, remember, we replaced the IP command with the IPv6 command. So show IPv6 route OSPF will show all the IPv6 OSPF routes. So on R1, what do I know? I know almost nothing. I've got an inter-area route here for 22222, which is the loopback interface for Route 2. So let's have a look at that. So Route 2's loopback interface was in area 1. So that's an OI route, which we can see here is an OSPF inter-area route. Yeah, so that's as expected. And the network 1123, that's the network address there. Yeah, see, so there's no IP address at the end of the double colon. So this is a network address /64, and again that's the subnet here. That's the network here. Sorry, between R2 and R3 with the 23. But we know nothing else on R1. That's all we know. So on R2, let's do the same thing. Show IPv6 route OSPF. What did I type wrong? Show yes, there we go. Okay, so R2, whoa, this is even worse. So R2 knows about R1's loopback interface, It knows nothing about anything in area 2. It knows nothing about root of 3 or root of 4. And that's to be expected, right? Because we've got this crazy setup going on here. We know that area 2 needs to be connected to the backbone area, so we knew it was broken before we started. Nothing to worry about. We can fix this, right? So on R3, let's see what R3 knows. IPv6, OSPF. So R3 knows about the link between router 1 and router 2. It knows about the loopback interface for router 1. It knows about the loopback interface for router 2, and it knows about the loopback interface for router 4. So router 3 knows quite a lot, and router 4 knows show IPv6 OSPF. These are all the OSPFs, right? So router 4 knows about the loopback interface for router 3, and that is it. Okay, so we know we're broken, we know why we're broken, so let's try and fix it. So this is all about the virtual link stuff. Now we've done the IPv4 virtual link video already, so we're just going to just steam straight on here and just crack on with the OSPFv3 IPv6 version of virtual links. And you'll notice that there is absolutely no difference. So we're going to create a virtual link between R2 and R3 so that we're going to drag the area 0, the backbone area, across area 1, which is going to be the transit area, into R3 or into area 2. Alright, so all the routes from area 2 will be connected to area 0 via this virtual link. Alright, so on R2 we go into IPv6. Ooh, I don't know what's typing there. Router OSPF1, which is the process that we configured right way back at the beginning of the video, and this command is going to look very familiar to you indeed. So area 1 virtual link 3333. Okay, and that's exactly the same command as you typed in when you did the virtual links for OSPFv2 with this standard IP, right? So again, we're not using an IPv4 address, although we are in a way. That's the router ID, yeah. So the router ID that we configured for the neighbor relationship is what's used for the virtual link. So we've configured area 1 virtual link, and then the router ID for router 3. And then on router 3, we do the same thing. We hop into global config mode. We go IPv6 router OSPF1, and we do area 1 because area 1 is the transit area. Virtual link, and then the remote router ID of router 2. So we should see a virtual link OSPF adjacency start up pretty soon, which it has done. There we go. So we've got OSPF v3 up, running now, virtual link. Do we know anything else? Yeah, we know some more now. So what else we got? We've got the network between router 3 and router 4. So perfect. So we've got the loopback for 2, loopback for 3, network between 3 and 4, network between 2 and 3. It's all looking good. Sorry, that's the loopback between 2 and 3 on router 3, and the network between 2 and 3. Still broken because we've got this disconnected area 0. We've got half of it over here, half of it over here, and we want to bring these two guys together. And now we're going to drag area 0 across this area 2 as well. So we're going to drag it across 2 transit areas. So then we'll be able to connect area 0 via 2 virtual links. Yeah. All right. So let's go into router 3, do the same thing. So we've got, we're already in the process, so we might as well carry on. So area 2 is the transit area. Virtual link to router 4's route ID from router 3. And then router 4, we go and configure. So IPv6 router OSPF1, there's the process. We're doing area, transit area, which is 2, virtual link, and we do the router ID of router 3. So we should now see R4's loopback interface in this, which we do. And just to prove it out that we are both in the same area, it's an O route. Okay, so it's just a standard OSPF intra-area network. That's learned there. All right, so there you go. So that's OSPFv3, otherwise known as OSPF for IPv6, and some virtual links just to prove out a bit of stuff there. So that's the end of this video for today. Thank you very much for your listening. Hope it's not been too boring for you, and please leave me some comments. Get onto the website and read through some articles. Give me some feedback. Ask me some questions. Thank you very much for your attention. Cheers. Take care. Bye.